So my state, the state of Utah, they've been talking in the state legislature on potentially banning critical race theory from being taught. And so I got added to this group. It's called Utah Educational Equity Coalition. Some of the people in there are the people that added me. I'm guessing that they believe that I'm on their side with it, and that's potentially because on some issues I do lean left. But honestly, I am against critical race theory. I've listened to a lot of James Lindsay's ideas, read most of Cynical Theories, his book. I've listened to Coleman Hughes, Sam Harris, a lot of these guys who are pretty critical of critical theories. They criticize those theories. So I'm just going to go through some of these comments from, a lot of them are like educators in Utah, but this was based on a resolution that was passed by Republicans in Utah's legislature, and they basically said no critical race theory in K through 12 or the university level. I can understand maybe why it's more controversial at the university level, but K through 12, that seems based on some of the tenets of critical race there, that seems very obvious. Okay, so you have this guy, yes, the party of small government that eschews government overreach. Okay, this person right here, this is an educator in the state. He says, if I can't teach about race, that means I can't teach the Constitution either, because the Constitution brings up CRT first. Oh well. Okay, I just want to highlight, I think this guy is really confused. Teachers have always been teaching about race. I mean, that's been a fundamental concept in a U.S. history course. Teachers have taught about slavery and the Civil War, and they've taught about people like Frederick Douglass. They've taught about the Civil Rights Movement and Jim Crow. Teachers have been teaching those ideas for a really long time. So that is either a complete straw man argument, saying that if we can't teach about critical race theory, then we can't teach about race. That's either a straw man, or this teacher is really confused. His idea that the Constitution brings up critical race theory, again, critical race theory is a fairly new idea. I mean, it was advocated by Derek Bell. A lot of the ideas came from Herbert Marcuse. It hasn't been around for more than, from my reading, maybe like 30, 40 years, with some of the roots in postmodernism going back maybe to like the 1950s, 60s or so. So the idea that the Constitution is full of critical race theory, that's news to me. That'd be news to James Lindsay and other people that have studied it nonstop for a long period of time. Let's go to the next one. This is ridiculous at the university level again. It's hard because universities do receive tax dollars. Now, they could teach maybe just like the concept of it. They could say this is what critical race theory is. This is what some scholars believe, but they also should seek to present the other side and say, here are some criticisms or some concerns that some people have with critical race theory. That's fine, but if you're just teaching it as absolute truth, absolute fact, and you're receiving taxpayer dollars when a lot of taxpayers don't like critical race theory and don't agree with it, then I don't know what you expect. Again, understand critical race theory. It's not just saying that racism has existed in our society and still exists. If you really follow it to its logical extent, it diminishes the importance of math and science. It claims that these are basically inventions of white, cisgender, heterosexual men, and that math and science are used primarily to basically propagate power and keep passing down power from the powerful to those that are born into advantageous situations. They don't value the scientific method. A lot of people that are really into critical race theory, they don't believe in the idea of objective truth. They say there is no objective truth, there's just power. And that knowledge isn't valuable. Knowledge is a tool of oppression. Every society is the same. If you have a society that has eradicated all of these diseases and people are not starving and there's peace and there's prosperity, you can't, according to critical race theory, you cannot say that that society is better to live in than a society that doesn't have those things. A society where people are being beat for their beliefs or being killed for having sex out of marriage. Critical race theorists would say, no, you can't argue that one of those societies is better than another. They say basically there's no truth, it's just power. Okay, this person right here, is this even legal? This is crazy. Are they now the party of censorship again? I'm not going to claim to say I'm Republican. I'm not. I mean, I don't agree with some things with Democrats as well, but the idea that Republicans are now the party of censorship, no, understand not wanting an ideology to be taught in schools. That's not like censorship. Again, I do lean left in a lot of areas, but you look at Ben Shapiro getting shut down from speaking at universities, and you look at basically mobs attacking some speakers, conservative speakers, as they go to speak at universities. Like, that's actual censorship. People getting fired left and right from their jobs for tweeting something controversial a few years ago. Like, that's censorship. Will the ACLU be looking at the legality of this? This makes me sick. So again, just highlight misperceptions with critical race theory being in schools. If critical race theory is banned, that's not saying that racism can never be discussed. Again, racism has been discussed in history classes and psychology, maybe even some English classes for a long time, but it's saying that you aren't going to push this ideology, Robin DiAngelo style, of all white people are racist and all white people benefit from racist systems. No matter what you do, you'll always be racist. You'll always be battling it. It's always a thing. No, a lot of people don't want their kids to be indoctrinated with that. And it goes further than that to basically demand equal outcomes. Critical race theory, in large part, demands equal outcomes. Now, of course, racism is real. And of course, it has played a role historically in some unequal outcomes, but society is more equal now in terms of race and the policies that we have in place than ever before. Yes, crack and cocaine, they should probably be scheduled like the same. People's prison sentences for those should be the same, with one being a drug primarily used by black people and one by white. But we don't have Jim Crow laws or anything even remotely close to it. We don't have the same oppressive mechanisms set up as what existed in the past. And so, again, teach about the past, teach about these things, but a lot of what people claim is so wrong with society when it comes to race, there's a lot of confirmation bias involved. Coleman Hughes, for example, he has studies posted on his website that indicate that there are not these big disparities when it comes to police killings. There are not that many black men that are killed every year by police. And so, again, some of these people that promote these ideas, they're activist scholars. Not just scholars, they're activist scholars. So keep in mind, someone that's an activist, they're not seeking always to just learn the truth and to be as objective as possible. Activists are trying to promote an ideology. They're trying to push certain ideas into society, and then if they're an activist scholar, that means they're going to push those ideas, and they're going to try to do research and make their research conform to their ideology. When a good scholar is just going to seek to be as objective as possible, you can argue no one is completely objective. That's a fair argument. But I'll tell you that some people are far more objective than others. You can have people that are 98% objective, where someone else is 5% objective. So again, be wary of activist scholars. Critical race theory, study it for yourself. Look at James Lindsay, Coleman Hughes, Glenn Lowry, John McWhorter, Sam Harris. Look at some great minds and why they say critical race theory is dangerous. Again, we want society to be as equal as possible. Equality of opportunity, equality before the law. We want to make society fair, but a lot of critical race theory, it's not about fairness. A lot of critical race theorists, they will justify discrimination if it is for the aim of equalizing outcomes. Thanks for listening. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel.